My guest today is Eric Peterson. Eric had a near death experience in 1989, which gave him the urge to want to learn everything. He went and got his doctorate in theology of divinity and studied with several religions in order to be able to help others better. Welcome, Eric. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me. Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about your near death experience. What happened leading up to it, and then what happened during your near death experience?
Okay, this is actually the second of three experiences. I had an out of body as a child, and then I had another one when I was dealing with heart issues. And I don't really talk about that one because I can't even word that one very well. It's so undescribable. Someday maybe I can. I'll do a better job. But this is the big one. This is my second one, and it's kind of it's the one where I got pulled out. So what happened was at that time, this is March or February 1989. I was at my lowest point of my life at that time. Okay, and I had what I refer to as my Lieutenant Dan moment. I know I kind of share this a lot with people, but that's how it was. And this is before the movie Forrest Gump came out. But I just was mad about a lot of things in my life, and I just buried it and stuffed it. I never acted out. I didn't take my anger or disappointments on anybody else. I just stuffed them. But it just got to a point that I exploded. And basically, what happened? This was in Vancouver, Washington. It was at my dad's apartment, and he was gone. He visited his sister in Seattle. Anyway, um, I just kind of vented back and forth and yelling at God and yelling and mad, being mad and threatening him. And hey, if you're a man, come on down. It's kind of not in a good place. And I just kind of did this all day for several hours. And at the end of the day, I was really wiped out. And I really just needed something from the Lord, just something unusual. Okay. So I sat on the bed of my room and I says, God, if you're really there, and I know he was, I know he is. I just need to know because I've been praying and nothing's happening. And I don't really like to pray. I pray off and on here and there. And I just need to know that you're there. And I know the dark side was there because I used to be in the occult. So I was aware of things around me. I always have been. And so I said, gee, God, there's the bad guys groping around me. I don't see them, but I feel them. You feel it, feel it. I just said, I just want something unusual. And I literally just thought of like, hey, how about a book just falling on the van? I just something unexpected, nothing major, nothing. Well, of course that didn't happen. So so I went to go lay down and everything. And so I was laying down there, and people asked me if this was a dream. Nothing. No, this was not a dream because I wasn't really asleep yet. But anyway, so I started going to sleep, and I feel like probably half awake, half asleep phase, and I felt this hand, like it was a good sized man's hand, shake me. But there's no way. I mean, I was laying down, so it'd have to come up from under the bed, kind of a thing, and shake me, and it startled me. And I got up. At first, I thought actually it was my dad that had come home. I looked up, no one was there. And then I thought, okay, man, I imagined that one. So I thought, okay, I really want something to happen so bad. Maybe I just imagined that. So then I started going back to bed. And then I thought, oh, I know what it is. It's my blankets kind of folding in. They're kind of just collapsing. And I dismissed it at that. Well, a few moments later, it happened again. And this is where everything starts rolling. Okay. And anyway, for time, I'll just do my best to put all the big stuff in there. But so anyway, I got touched again, but as this happened, this literally this fire came through me, and I could see it. I mean, I'm laying in bed, I could see this fire, and it was mostly whitish. It didn't burn me or hurt me or anything like that. And I don't know, this was crazy. For the longest time, I had the hardest time explaining this to people, but I could see it through the wall at the same time from the other bedroom. And like I said, since then I've learned that's called multidimensional viewing, and a lot of experiencers have that for multiple positions. I only had it from two. I was like, what the heck is going on? I didn't know what was happening. I mean, it didn't hurt. I'm on fire. What's going on? And then all of a sudden, I feel like I'm being pulled out. Almost kind of like magnet like, which makes sense from another experience. But I feel like maybe as they lifted out, pulled out something, and like a tunnel opened up and I went into a tunnel. And it's kind of hard because I didn't know what was going on at all. I don't know what is. I have no idea what's going on. So I was going through this tunnel, and I describe it like if you go to like a amusement park, the tear ride, because it was actually spinning like the tear ride tunnels. You kind of go through your little carts and stuff like that. It kind of looked like that a little bit. It was just different, and that's what it made me think of. And I just was going through there, just kind of watching what's going on. So I went through this tunnel, and then it planed out. I mean, it went really super far, kind of like in Stargate a little bit. Now you got to mind y'all, these my experience happened way before a lot of these movies and stuff came out, but I use movies to help describe parts of my experience quite often. So anyway, I'm going through this tunnel, and it seemed like I was going like at mega warp speed, and I come out this one part. It's not exactly coming out, but I went into this place where it was kind of whitish light, everywhere super bright white light, not as bright as about to go through. And there's this sheet, this massive sheet of white light in front of me. It looked like it was made of lightning, pretty much, and it had these little silver sparkles in there all over the place, like glitter, like school glitter in there. And so I went up to it, and I started going through it, and I think this represented my total departing from my body. Because I think I was more of a spirit at that time, because as I went through there, I was becoming detached. It was awesome too. I mean, I knew my physical body, if it exposed light, would just incinerate. It would have been like searing light and heat and everything. But I crossed over, I went through this sheet of light, and it basically made me feel like my body dissolved. Okay, even though my body wasn't really there, it was maybe it was a representation. I don't really understand this part of what was happening to me. Okay, so I crossed through this barrier, okay, or veil, and I was basically in the spirit world. And what it was like for me at first, and I think this is maybe a receiving area, was when I crossed over, it hit me that light is love and love is light. I mean, it's tangible. It's like a mist. And I've heard other experiencers talk about this too, but for me, it was like, what's going on? And it was like being inside. I always describe it this way. It's the best way to describe this. It's like being inside a cloud when you have lightning strike and just kind of pause that really neat old bright light kind of a thing. And so I was like, I was in the super bright white light area, and you could feel this love. Oh my gosh. And maybe just the glory of God too, because there's other parts where I had this Jesus experience where the Shekinah glory was there. So I'll get to that. But it was like it was just this mist, and it was just like being in a cloud. It was very misty, very loving. You feel the love of the Lord everywhere. It had this wonderful smell to it. I call it the scent of God. It had like kind of like sacred music in the background. It really focused on this, but it had like a wind chime sound. So it was like very relaxing to me. So it was like kind of tailored for me. And when I crossed over, this part's like hard to explain because I was explaining so much. I was having so many things experienced to me all at once. So being when I crossed over, I knew I was detached from the earth immediately. My physical pain was gone. My emotional pain was gone. I just felt different and everything. And I and I knew when I was there that I had been there before. And it's like, oh, I've been here. It was so familiar to me. It's like coming home. It was like it's like coming home to a home you haven't been to in like years and years and years. So familiar, but you forget a few things in there. It's like I've been here before. I kept thinking I've been here before. And I'm trying to like really rack about it. I couldn't remember anything at all. It was just so familiar. You just knew for a fact you came from this place, but I didn't have a memory at that time. And I'm sitting there and standing there basically, and I just knew there's just something wrong with me. It's like, man, I'm detached from Earth. That I don't feel right about this. Like, what if a nuclear device goes off in my neighborhood? I remember thinking the stupidest, dumbest thought, right? And this is the Cold War at the time. And this voice boomed inside of me. At first, I thought maybe answer myself, but the fact that it said you, and it wasn't my voice, it says, you don't need to worry about that. And I was like so blissfully happy. Like, wow, this is really cool. I'm not going to worry about that at all. But anyway, I'm standing there, and I think this may be a receiving area for departed spirits, way I describe it. And people and animals were coming in on the sides of me, and they're moving in like little lightning strikes, or I call them like bullets. They're moving so fast, but you can see them as they cross by. It's almost like the Matrix type stuff. And they're like, boom, there's an old man, there's an old woman, there's like a horse. I always use the metaphor, cat, dog, rat, frog. All these animals will just shoot like little spark, and they look like when the sparkler, you take a sparkler and you streak it, and it has that gold orange. That's what they look like coming in all around me. And I also for a moment, I had a little bit of fear because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to get hit from behind. And as soon as I thought that, it all stopped. Okay. Then anyway, I guess I was started moving into this mist area. I didn't actually feel any inertia. For me, it was just standing there, but I seemed to be moving. And I remember it was hard to see through it, but I could discern clearly through it. It's hard to describe this. And we had held that mist, but you could see through it really good. for the most part. And then I could see men and women in white robes working together. And then let me tell you, everybody is so beautiful there. I mean, they're physically attractive, but it's their spirit that makes them really beautiful. I mean, everybody I saw was just magnificently beautiful. It was like everybody's like models. I mean, even if you weren't perfect, it's just everybody was just their souls made you look so beautiful over there. And everybody, it was all in balance. I mean, the men and women had their roles. I mean, it was just in balance the way it's supposed to be, and I saw just people work, talking and walking together, and looked like some had clipboards, like they were checking off things or something important to do. That's what it looked like to me. And they're all at these different altitudes and everything. I didn't see any flooring or anything between them. They just seemed to be doing that. And anyway, so that was pretty cool. I was just amazed. I was just amazed at the balance and the harmony and the beauty and this love, this light. It was very healing too. And I will say, I should have said this in some of my other videos, that this you kind of you feel a presence of, like, I would say, God the Father out there. You just feel this like all knowing, all awareness and everything. And I usually later describe this as connecting God's Wi-Fi, because you start tuning in after a while. But I gotta say, at first, I honestly didn't know what was going on most of the time. I was being shown things, it wasn't being explained. I was like really bewildered at first. But anyway, moving forward. So anyway, I'm going through this, and I guess I started moving again. And I started moving really fast. Everything went by like a blur, and I was back into another tunnel. And I think I was ascending, because I really believe I kind of went where the Lord was. Okay. Now I didn't know where I was going at first at all. It's kind of a long tunnel, so it seemed like it was really far away. So there's all these seems like to be all these different, maybe different levels on the other side. And anyway, so I'm going through this, and it was a lot like I described it a lot like how Gandalf had his near death experience in Lord of the Rings too. And so it was kind of like that, planed out, kind of open, then went back into a tunnel. And so I went through that. And as I'm getting to the end of this tunnel, and in the spirit, you could see for thousands of miles, my spirit was starting to wake up with abilities. And one thing I could see is like see for 1,000 miles. So I could see this in this tunnel. The tunnel started seeming darker compared to light from the Lord coming on the side. Now I wasn't looking for the Lord. I didn't know he was there at first, just FYI. Okay. But as I get closer, I started recognizing there's this part that wakes up. And I met a near death and author, near death experience and author, Dr. George Ritchie, wrote Return from Tomorrow back in just like a couple months after my near death experience. And he says, when you approach the Lord, something inside you stands at attention. And he was prior military. He had his thing when he was in the Army. And that's actually right. And as I was getting close, I was getting really excited. And I was 22 years old at the time, but I felt like a little kid, man. I felt it's that excitement. It's like, oh my gosh, I know him. I know. I was so excited, just like a little kid. Like you catch. I always describe this, that feeling if you were to catch Santa Claus putting gifts in the tree as a little child. That excitement, the squealingness, the excitement, how the kids are high pitched screams, and they're just so happy and excited. I kind of felt that, but I was an adult at that time. I'm not embarrassed to say that, because that's exactly how I felt. I, like, I know he was so excited. And anyway, he had his arms open. Anyway, so I come out of this tunnel, I mean at warp speed, and I stop just like boom, like this in front of him. Now, at first, this part is so hard to explain because there's a lot going on quickly. So I stopped, and he was in this glory. It's described the way I described it as a Shekinah glory. It was this lightning fire. I mean, absolutely just massive, like and his glory is fire, right? And it was like lightning fires. Earthly fire would be considered dirty and filthy and solid and just yucky compared to where I was at. And like, you could feel him back there. I mean, he's right there. You can see his silhouette, but there's fire just raging all around me. I didn't get burned, I didn't get hurt or anything like that. And you could feel his love just like vroom, like power, just vroom, waves on you, and you could feel him smiling. I mean, you can't, at first I couldn't really see it too well, but you just sense it, feel he's just smiling. And anyway, so I'm kind of looking at there, and you feel this super love, and you're just not really sure what's going on, but it's just I just don't have the language for we just don't have the language here on earth to describe this. But it was the glory of God, the love of God, and it was just amazing. So anyway, I was there for a moment, and then he kind of like reached in and kind of grabbed me and pulled me in and hugged me. And Betty Eady wrote "Embraced by Light," and so this is my "Embraced by Light" moment. And he was a being, he's a man of light. And as I'm touching him, it was shocking. because I knew I was a spirit at that point. I totally knew completely I was a spirit. I didn't know what was going on exactly, but I knew it was a spirit. And when I touched him or hugged him, I was fully aware that he was, I don't know where this came from, by the way. He was a fully resurrected being. It was crazy. He was like, people ask me, oh, maybe he was a spirit. No, he wasn't spirit Jesus. He wasn't a ghost. He was resurrected. I didn't get the sense he had blood in him or anything like that. I think he had something pure. He's changed, different, but I don't know a lot about that. Okay. But all I know is he was physical and he was touching me like no problem. And he was hugging me. And that was so healing. And it made me think at that moment that he had paused the universe because the universe remote, paused the whole universe. And it was my time with him. And he was just joyful to be with me, which is shocking because I'm not used to that experience, right? And you'd think I'd be happy to be with him, which I was totally. But he was more so, he was like just delighted I was there. It was just like the best thing for him ever. It was crazy how much he loved you. I this is the part I want to share with people because people cannot comprehend that, and that one, God is real, Jesus is real, and how much they love us on the other side. We just don't have, our world is so negative and dark, people just can't conceive of that at all, you know. And it's just mind-boggling. And anyway, so I'm sitting there, standing there, I'm taking in the love, and it's just kind of like he cradles her like a baby kind of a thing. You kind of do feel like that, like in the mom's arms kind of thing. And anyway, after a few moments, I stood back. I'm trying to look at him. I still had, I got to see his silhouette, but it was just the bright light was just intense. So we started turning it down, kind of like you do a stove burner kind of a thing. Started turning it down, and I could start seeing different aspects. And later, I found this in the scriptures. And I was not a student of the scriptures at all at this time, at all. So anyway, he's toning it down. You can feel him smiling at you. Certainly feel him scanning you with his eyes, and so at first, we tones it down, and it's just like in the scripture. I see his head like a sun just for a moment, but I see the rest of him. Okay, and then it tones it down, and this part is, it's interesting. I saw him with whitish hair, but I thought at first it was lightning fire reflection off his hair. It was so bright. Okay. And then he tells it, this kind of was scary, this part, where his eyes were kind of like fire. I mean, it wasn't like scary bad. It was kind of intimidating because you know that he is God the Son. You are in the presence of God the Son. And let me tell you, it was just known to you. He had a full authority, full knowledge, full wisdom. He was aware of everything. He knew everything about you, good and bad. He was totally aware of everything. And you were respectful. You need to be respectful, but I mean, it wasn't going to browbeat you over it. I mean, and anyway, he toned it down, and I was just shocked. He had blue within blue eyes. It was just amazing. He just scanned you, and you just felt the love. I cannot describe this to people good enough. I just don't have the language. I almost wish I could mind meld that with people, with people, kind of a thing. So anyway, that was a pretty neat introduction. I'm trying to do the best I can with the wording. It brings up some of the feelings for me. And anyway, then we went to another location. A lot of times, you guys, we moved, I guess, at the speed of thought, because I didn't know how we were moving. We were at one place, then poof, in another place. It's like, how do we get here? I learned later. Okay, I learned later, and but I kind of felt like maybe we were going up and higher as we did this, and and we went to this other place. It's hard to explain because a lot of places was white. It was just white. It wasn't like aesthetically white. It was everywhere. And anyway, we're communicating, and I was talking to, was like, well, where have you been? Because I was kind of like a little upset still, because I've been praying off and on for a few years. I wasn't the best person at the time by any means, but I did try to reach out from time to time with the Lord. He says, where have you been? He says, well, I've always been here. And I really kind of disagree with that. It's like, no, I don't agree with that. I actually, he says, no, I've always been here, but it's you distance yourself from me. And I like to share this every time because it makes a point how we distance ourselves from God, and even our other people in our family and friends and things. So he showed me, and I really wasn't following the Christian path or anything at that time. I had a background at that time in Mormonism, and so these would be kind of more like sinful natures. But anyway, he showed me how I had like unforgiveness, and the way I described it is like being in a Walmart parking lot, and you have those little lines. That wasn't in Walmart parking lot. It's a big white space, like a football field or something, but it was just white. And every time he mentioned something, I'd move back a line just about like what your Walmart parking lot would be. So he said, you had unforgiveness, you had revenge and anger and all these other, basically sinful thoughts and sins and acts. And I would take revenge on people, and I was mean to people and animals and stuff like that. And I was like, shit, boom, 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 just popping me back. And let me tell you, you feel really bad about that, because you really want to be close to the Lord. I mean, you're kind of drawn to him. He's like your dad. You just kind of don't want to be. We want to kind of like hang on to his leg. Don't leave me, kind of a thing. You know, and you kind of feel bad, and then you don't realize just how many things you do really bad. And then anyway, I know he wasn't finished. I was about 250 feet away from him at this time, so I was kind of crappy at that moment. So he brings me back. Some people ask me if that's a past life review. No, it's just a character correction. He's making me aware of things, and I did have a pretty not the greatest background in that. It's pretty not good at that time. And so he just changed around. I knew I'd been forgiven. He says, you're a product of your experiences, and I realized you didn't know, but he let me take accountability. He says, but now you were accountable. And he pointed his finger at me. So he expected me to like come back, and when I was being forced to come back, which I didn't want to come back. I was still in denial about that. But he wanted me to live a path of holiness, which what I mean by that is to be the best positive person you could be. And I try to follow his example. I'm not really holy or anything like that. I just try that. I'm holy like with holes, I'm incomplete, but I try to do that. I came back really different. But I gotta tell you, coming back here, I fought it. Let me tell you. So, and then we went to another location. Like again, it kind of felt like we were going up, almost like a steps, like pavilions, almost in some way, like just levels. I don't know how to explain that to you. I didn't know how to get there. So before the Lord, it was like a question and answer thing. I really don't remember what we're saying. That has actually been blocked out of my memory for the most part. But I remember just communicating about things, and then it was crazy. I saw this really hit me really hard. I saw the finally the prints in his hands and his feet. And it's like, oh my gosh. And then at that point I went down to my knees. And because the crucifixion really happened. It really, really happened. And you should have seen the size of these things in his hands. I mean, they were like railroad spikes. Okay. And you can tell he really suffered. And it just really hit me hard. So it really kind of humbled me. I was really quiet for a few minutes. I went down to my knees. It's like, wow, it really had happened. And so anyway, they showed me just a flash of the scene of the crucifixion, which was pretty brutal. It was only for a second. It was really brutal. I've seen the Passion of Christ. I've given out lots of videos on that, and I would say it was quite a bit worse than that. Especially because you could feel the suffering and the pain coming from. Because when he flashed it, I actually didn't share this in any of my other experiences, videos, but you feel what he's feeling, and it's really strong. I mean, my gosh, he went through so. It wasn't just the emotional pain; it's just the anguish of carrying everything. It was amazingly just even for a second. I don't think I could honestly. I don't think I could even handle being connected for another second with that. Honestly, so anyway, I was just humbled, and so I actually got up. I got to see his hands, and the one thing about me I like to say is I have Jesus' hands. The only thing besides having blue eyes, which aren't as blue as his, I say I have Jesus' hands because they remind me of his, and they were just big. Those holes were pretty big, and looked like to me they were kind of white and like proud flesh a little bit. They just were never healed, and they weren't supposed to heal. I think it's just shown. And I know people seen him without the prints and stuff. I don't know. This is for my experience, and I really wasn't religious or spiritual at this time, but I needed it. And for me, growing up, yeah, I'd gone to church a few times. There's moments in time in my life where I was churchy and then I wasn't. But Jesus to me, I didn't really think about him too much, honestly. And a whole lot. I did have an experience as a child with him out of body, but I didn't think about that. That was so long ago. And Jesus to me was just some guy, nice guy that just misunderstood, and just people weren't really nice to him. It was kind of like that. So anyway, after that, we went to I'm trying to for time. I'm trying to think how to. But we went to this one place. This is really cool to explain. Okay, I will say after this, I started learning how I was moving around, because this is when I was really starting to connect to God's Wi-Fi. You start either remembering or is being downloaded into you. But we went to this place. I know some of my stories are repetitive, but it's important because I'm trying to show people the love of God, our connection to each other on the other side, and our spiritual progression and everything. So we go to this place, and it's kind of like I know it's pretty high up wherever we went, and it's like it was almost like I guess on top of a mountain. I it wasn't like that, but I don't know how to explain it to you. It was really high up, kind of like you had the boulevards where the rich people live, kind of things high up. And anyway, it had like this big view of space and everything. And there's this building off to the right of us. So the Jesus is on my left. I'm on his right. And this lady, this building looks like it's Greek architecture, like a Parthenon or something like that. And this lady comes out, and she's really pretty. She looks like a lot like Angelina Jolie, which who I didn't know about at that time, or this other girl that I met. Her name was Little Jen. I called her Little Jen, and it looked a lot like her, honestly. And she came down. She just kind of hung out with us. Didn't say a word, but she looked like she had some type of authority or some type of wisdom. And she had kind of like a Greek priestess dress on, the way I took it, because everybody had white robes over there. And it is, I thought, gee, it was kind of a little sexy for wearing that over there, because it seemed kind of out of place. I mean, it wasn't inappropriate or anything. And she was quite attractive, but usually I would kind of been looking her way. But when you're with the Lord, you're just magnetized, you know. And there's a part I'll share here pretty quick. It's kind of funny. Kind of got rebuked by the Lord a little bit, but anyway, so I'm with those two. I don't know if she's just a witness or what. I don't know her purpose. She didn't say a word. I don't know what the heck she is. I just call her a spirit guide. I don't know what she was. But anyway, so she's me. So Jesus, me, and her, we kind of like ascend, and the space is, so it's like open space. And by the way, space is really colorful. There's a lot of color out there. It's insane. I know the astronauts talk about that. And the Lord goes, look, now when the Lord talks to you, I don't really like to say telepathy, you guys. I call it light to light, being to being, because it's hitting all these, different aspects. Not kind of like chakras, but it's like you have your physical aspects, your spiritual, your mental. You have all different aspects. It's like he communicates, and whenever I had the Lord communicate to me before, he's always multitasked. Talk to me on different levels, all emotional here and there. So that's how I kind of know if the Lord really does talk to you, because it has these aspects. So anyway, we're ascended up to this open space, and the Lord goes, look, and he throws out his arm like this. I don't know if I can show it. Anyway, throws his arms out like that. Look. And so, okay, I'm looking. And all of a sudden, these worlds come up. And I think they're duplicates of Earth. Just because they're so massive and the land masses were so big, I didn't really focus on the continents, honestly, because it was like right in your face. And then you had these other worlds pop in, kind of like you see from some of the Star Trek or Battlestar Galactica movies. Now, mind you, this happened before those effects were available. Just got this Earth popped up, or something like the Earth. These other ones just popped up, and so I feel the immensity of space. Oh my gosh! And it was just literally like the three of us would be like in orbit around the Earth anyway, and they look just like the living worlds. I mean, just look just like this. And so I'm looking, and I can see zillions of our little brothers and sisters on these other worlds, and they had and I'm like kind of looking up, although you can see around, but I just kind of focused more this way because that's just how I was on Earth. And I was just kind of looking around, and I was like, wow, oh my gosh, there's so many people. It made me think of what the scriptures talk about the populations of the earth, like for Abraham, his generations be like the sands of the sea, the stars of the sky. That's exactly what I was thinking when I read that scripture later. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's like millions and millions and millions. And everybody had white robes, but they had like varying degrees of light and glory and intelligence. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And all the worlds, it was different. So I think these are spiritual levels. This is how I interpret it. Okay. They're spiritual levels. And they are ministering to each other. And you had others like they had brighter light, they had more glory and intelligence, and they were ministering to the other people. Everybody was service. I mean, complete. That's the big message. It was service to everybody and understanding. And so it's like coaches. It was like people would help you, and if you progressed and surpassed the coach that was, or your sensei that was like mentoring you, that was okay, kind of a thing. But everybody still has opportunities to move up. So I saw that it was just bewildering. It was like seeing all the people on the earth that have lived and will live and have lived or are living. It was crazy. Okay. It was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that. And what I understood was it was kind of based, like from a Christian perspective, it would be based on opportunity and obedience to reveal things that God has given us, or from another spiritual perspective, it would be just basically opportunity and the choices to follow spiritual paths and just be a good person. Now, doesn't some people just don't have an opportunity to learn certain things, and it's just based on opportunity and choice. There was no like, oh, we're better than you, we attain better, a higher state than you because we're more righteous. And this, there was no ego like that. It was just like it was accepted. That's where you kind of develop to, and that's where you are. And where you learn, where you are, you're still learning, but you're also serving. you know, and that was okay. No one I saw was ever unhappy or anything like that. I didn't see any arguing or anything like going on, at least at that time or anything. And that was really cool. So I'm looking over there, and and it's pretty cool and stuff. But this is I always share this part because it's kind of funny. And this is the only time the Lord really spoke with his mouth to me. So I guess there's air over there, I guess. But and I keep looking back at the Lord. I could not help it for anything, guys. I just look back at the Lord because he was way. This was cool. But man, he is way cool. I just kept looking back like this, like, dude, you're awesome, man. You are so cool. I just couldn't help it. I just could not help it. And he got kind of annoyed with me. He goes, this is when he finally said, look, he got kind of not mad, but was like, hey, it's important, look, okay, yeah, okay, I'm looking. So I like went back and look, and it was funny because the world's changed to crystal or glass, and I could see all the people through the worlds, and I didn't know that, but they could see me. They were totally aware of me and him and whoever this lady was with us up here. And so I'm just looking, it was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. What's happening? What's happening? And everybody on all these worlds, everywhere, they all stopped and they were me. It was crazy. They all stopped, even on the other side of the world. And I'm talking, this is zillions of people to me. I've never seen a number this high ever. And they all stopped and pointed to me. Even it's funny, even the people basically on the other side of the world are pointing to the ground, right? And they pointed to me where I was with Jesus and this lady, and they used my middle name, and they said, John, we love you. And it, geez, man, next to the love of the Lord, and and of course you feel Father out there. Um, it really hit me. It was like a wave, man. You didn't see it. It wasn't a visible wave, but it hit me. But you felt the emotion, you felt the love of these people, and that was one of my issues: love. And I always felt rejected and misunderstood and everything. And that actually took me down to my knees again. I almost cracked up. It was like, oh my gosh! It made me very tender and tender-hearted. And I was already in a good place because I was with the Lord and everything. But it was wow, it made me think, who am I that these guys even know me? It makes me, am I supposed to do something? Who am I? What the heck's going on here? And it was just, I was quiet for a little bit because I didn't know how to take all this. I'm not used to feeling feelings like that or anything, I'm not, feeling super loved or anything. And it was awesome. The Lord's cool. I mean, you feel more from the Lord. So anyway, after this, I got to go explore, and I started learning how to do things, how to move at the speed of thought. And I felt like I was connecting in things. So I was either remembering or maybe I was being download. I really don't know how I was doing things. So I got to go explore, and I think maybe I kind of guided a little bit. And it kind of makes me think like you're on a guided cruise or something, or an unseen entity is like guiding you, like when you go visit the Vatican or something. So anyway, I was off exploring, and a lot of this places, you guys, I have a hard time explaining because I don't have a point of reference or the words to describe the environments I was in. So I went to this place. I don't think it was too far from where we were. I think it was on these mountains or hills or wherever, this pavilion, this wherever we were, it was big. So I went to this place, and it was almost like I don't remember seeing like everything. It's like a building maybe in the background, but I saw these people that from different religions and time periods of the Earth's past coming down. And it was probably, I would say, maybe 12 or 15. And I was going up this path, so it was kind of like a road. It wasn't stairs; it was kind of a road. And I was just kind of walking by them in the spirit, and everybody had white robes on. Almost everybody I saw had white robes on. And as this is cool. I don't know, you guys. I describe this all the time, but this was really neat because I didn't have any expectation in anything at all. I was just experiencing everything. So I went up, and there's this really neat guy, and he was Asian. I thought, God, that guy kind of looks like Master Po from Kung Fu kind of a thing. That's kind of what it reminded me of. And as I just basically almost walked right past him before he communicated to me. And as I walked by him, he had white robes, but it was like in the style from how he was he had been a Buddhist priest, right? The Shaolin priest. But as I walked by, his clothes flooded into the colors of his discipline. That was whoa, that was kind of neato. And he just said, in life I had been a Shaolin priest. That's all he basically said, or Shaolin monk. And then I met people that had been like Muslim and Sikhs, and I met a guy that had been a Catholic priest on the earth. And I remember this one lady just seemed like kind of out of place. She'd been a Catholic then, but she wasn't wearing Catholic then clothes. Just it was just kind of like stuff, like like a lady would wear a fancy dress for 150 years ago, something like that. It was all frizzy and high neck, and it was just it didn't seem in place for her body. She obviously liked it, so, and that just made a big, huge impression about the different faiths, because these guys were of different religions. I mean, there were some Christians, but some people were different religions, but because they lived basically Christ-like according to the tenets they had, I knew that the ones that hadn't been Christian on the other on the earth accepted the Lord when they went over there. And I know Christians have a lot of problems with that. You have to accept Christ here. That's true. I know we're supposed to evangelize, but if everybody's Christian, who are we going to evangelize to, right? So there's a purpose to everything, right? So all I know is there's no accidents, because there's a part where I was with the Lord. I should have mentioned it earlier, where I did ask the Lord about why there's so many different religions. I really didn't care a whole lot, but I was just kind of curious. And he told me flat out, people are where they're supposed to be. And I really didn't understand that at that time until after being sent back to Earthside, and then I'd see that imam, that Buddhist priest, that lay member, all the priest or whoever, pastor, lay person. That person is exactly the right person doing what they need to do to serve and learn in that position. It's, oh, people are where they're supposed to be. That made sense. Okay, took me a while to learn that out, but it was phenomenal because they were loving, they were interacting together, and they lived righteously upon the face of the earth when they were here. Okay, it's like wow. Okay, so anyway, I got to continue exploring, and I love everything to do with space, and that's what I kind of refer to. I have this thing I call my father and son project with God the Father. Anything to do with space, like astronomy, collecting, like shuttle models and lunar command modules and anything like that. I connect that more to God the Father, because I know it was His idea for me to cross over. Okay, I just have a knowing that was His idea. So anyway, so I'm in the space, this area of space, looking it's beautiful, it's colorful. I don't know if I was in spirit space or physical space. I certainly wasn't in a vacuum. I wasn't suffocating. I was enjoying the view. It's beautiful. And then I was like tuning into some of these worlds. And let me tell you, I should say these worlds weren't necessarily in front of me necessarily. They were way at vast distances from each other. But you can just kind of zoom in on them. So I was zooming in on this one world. It was very Jupiter-like. Um, until Avatar came out, I'd always describe it more like Jupiter, but it looks like a lot like that Pandora moon planet that, and from Avatar, it's kind of purple and grayish. It looks a lot like it, honestly. It was whatever world was a gas giant, and it was talking to God. It was communicating. I didn't understand what it was saying, and I was just so astonished to learn that these worlds are alive and self-aware. It's like, oh my gosh, they're literally like people. They have a spirit. They're fully aware of themselves and their purposes and intelligence, and they're communicating with God. I wasn't allowed to listen in to see what they were saying. I don't know what they're saying, because some of the worlds, even when I tuned into the other ones, some sound like whales, like whale song, kind of like, I don't know, humpback whales or something. And some sound like clicking or wind chimes, or, it just had to click, click, click. It was just weird, but I just knew they were having a conversation with God, and I have no idea what they're saying. And all I could say is I got a sense of for the purposes. I don't know what that was, but it was astonishing. And one part I don't necessarily share in every case is when I was even in spirit, when I was looking at this, I guess I was tuning into things more, and I describe this more and more now. And I tuned in to I don't know what these are. I described them as intelligences, and I talked to Betty Eady one time, and she talked about these things that they're like intelligence, but they respond to our thoughts, our words. Like if you do say, "Oh, my aching back," they respond to that. But like in my mantra, I'm a positive person. Good things happen to me and for me. I do positive things for others. It changes. These things work. We can't see them. And even in the spirit, at first I didn't see him, but I tuned in. And the way I described, the only way I know how to describe this is like if you ever jump in the ocean, you have goggles on, and you see those little mini floaties in the water everywhere. Or if you can't see lint and dust in your room unless you get a shaft of sunlight, and you can see all these zillions of dust particles and lint particles everywhere. They were like that. They were describing like lint particles. They felt kind of neutral, kind of more towards alignment to good, but they could be used for either art. And they were there everywhere out in the universe. I don't know what to say about that exactly, because I didn't know all things, and I didn't know what's going on. A lot of times, like, what in the world? Because it was shocking to me. It was kind of I don't know. It was shocking. I don't know how to explain that. But anyway, then I went to another place. I know more happened to me than I'm sharing because there's gaps. and I'm not allowed to remember everything. But as time goes on, there's actually a few memories that pop back in after I go through certain trials and understand a few things. Things come back to me. Okay, not very often, but it has. And then this one part is about kind of my moment of ego on the other side. So I went to this place, and I don't know, poof, I got there, and there was I usually don't talk about this too often, but uh, I was with, I'd say these people are angels, but they're like people. They didn't have wings. I never saw anybody with wings or anything. Everybody had white robes, and they had varying degrees of light and glory and everything. And there's a city. So I was in these basically big bleachers that went for miles. There's like a celestial city off to my right with a big shaft of light shooting up, kind of like Luxor, the pyramid in Vegas has a. And I always thought that was like the throne of God. Now I know there's multiple cities that have thrones for whatever reason. I don't know how I know that. I just know that. And we're like outside the city, and you know how in the Catholic like religious orders, you have like parishes that have the parishioners sit facing forward, but you also have monks and nuns that have these chairs that they face each other this way, and those are for vespers. They're for like chants and praying the prayers and stuff like that. And it made me think of that because they are facing each other. And I don't know if I did not pay attention to if it was a road into the city or if it was actually the living waters coming out. I did not pay attention because I like looking this way. This way is like, oh my gosh, there's zillions of us. There must be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And they're praising God, they're singing. And that's not my thing. I will praise God and sing by myself, but I do not do it in a group. Okay. And anyway, so I'm like, what is going on? I'm looking down there, and I want to be close to God, right? You can feel a presence down there. And I was about 60% away from everybody. I mean, from the where the I would say God is, and you want to be close to him. You can't help it. You're magnetized to him. And I just thought, I think I should be up there, is what I was thinking. And as soon as I thought it, everybody like stops almost. And that, they weren't mean to me, it was like they stopped. Like my ego stopped everything. It's like, what? It's like I felt kind of crappy, kind of embarrassed, and so I don't remember after. I guess I must have been removed. Maybe it was a bad boy. I don't know how I got out of that. And then I went to a place, and this was actually important. I don't share this most of the time, but I'll share it here. I've shared it maybe a couple of times, but not too often. I don't understand the meaning of this, but I went back with the Lord, and it has something to do with coming back to the earth. And we went to this garden, and he showed me like this brook. It was really deep, of the living waters. And I really didn't know anything about the living waters at that time. I didn't really know the scriptures or anything like that. And so anyway, we go in this garden. He actually had me get in it. So it was kind of like deep. It was almost like it was a garden, but it was kind of man-made too for certain things, because it was like, it was just, how certain parks are just, it's kind of man-made plus the organic stuff. And so he had me get into it. I do not know why. I don't remember why. He did explain it. It has something to do with me coming back here. I don't know. So and living waters is real, you guys, and it is alive. It literally is living waters. It has intelligence. It has a purpose. I do not know how to explain this other than that. Looking at it, it almost looks like 7 Up in a way, or the best way to describe it is like if ever been up in the mountains and you see the when the snow melts in the streams and the light hits that just right, it's almost like a crystal to it. Has like a crystal. It just looks different in the mountains when when it's melting. It just has a different reflection. That's as close as I can get, but it has purpose. It has it almost seems like it has knowledge. Maybe it was infusing me. I do not. So I had me get in it, and just basically get in from it, almost like a baptism in a way, and get out. So I just know that has something to do with me coming back here. I have no idea to this day what that means, or I don't know. And anyway, and then the one thing I want to definitely share is I'm just going to skip one thing out because it's kind of hard to explain it. But the biggest thing I want to share is like when I was come back to the Lord a little bit later, and I was communicating with him. I don't remember specifics on that, and I remember feeling grateful for this experience he's giving me and bewildered by it and everything, and the things I'm finally learning. And I kind of look down like this. It's like, and he goes, "Well, what's the matter?" And like he didn't know, right? And I said, it's like I felt kind of like bad. I said, "Well, Lord, I'm ashamed, man." I says, I can't love you like you love me. I mean, I feel like really wormy before you. I feel like an amoeba. You're such an advanced, infinite being. I'm just a little wimpy, little finite being, and I've done a whole lot of bad in my life. And I served on the side of darkness for a long time and did some really terrible things in my past. And he says, "Oh, let me show you something." So he showed me um literally an ocean with like the clouds over the ocean, like way out there, not just close to in short. We must have been thousands of miles out in the ocean. And I saw this little raindrop form in a cloud and just fall it all the way down. And that would have represented uh, me and my very best. I just knew that's what it represented. So if I was like as cool as John Paul the Great, that's what it would have represented because he's my hero. Okay. And I just follow this, and that would have represented me at the best. And it went plunk in the ocean, and all in the ocean. And he showed me all the ocean, the depth of the ocean, all the oceans. They showed me every particle of water on the face of the earth and in the sky. I mean, clouds of water, everything in the drains, in the sinks. It's insane. It's just insane how much underneath the earth. It was massive amounts under the earth, every particle of water. And man, you know what that represents? That represented his love for all of us. I mean, it was incomprehensible. You cannot believe the volume of water and the love. And he has to say this to me anyway. So I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, you have that much love for everybody. And then he says to me, like how can he possibly say it? Because it's hard to believe. He says, you're not capable of loving like that. And he pauses. He points to me again, him and his fingers. He pointed at me again and says, you're not capable of loving like that. And he goes, yet. It's like, dude, it's like I just it was to this day, I can't really accept it because back then it hit me so hard. It's like I'm a finite being. You're an infant being. I'm an amoeba. I just how can I do that? I was just like shocked. I was shocked that he could even say that to me. But I do know that Jesus and our families and things on the other side, they have far more confidence in our abilities to do things here than we have in ourselves, or what the environment tells us, kind of a thing. So that changed a lot. And when you're with him, you want to be better. Okay. I will share a couple more things. I'm not editing too much out, just minor little things, just for time, and they're minor. But there's a part where I was with the Lord, and I gotta tell you, the whole time, honestly, I was living on the river denial because I knew they wanted me to come back, but I was thinking, I'm not going back. Screw you guys. I'm finally dead. I'm finally happy. And they, by the way, if you say that I'm dead and happy, they get on you for that. The only time where they really kind of were mean with me is because we're not dead. We're more alive here. They don't like that. They don't even like that word there. See, to me, that's how it came across to me. They're far more alive there, even though you're not complete without your body until the resurrection, kind of a thing. And anyway, so I'm with the Lord, and we're communicating, and we're talking about things like challenges and things on the earth. And I told him, yeah, I'll do that for you. I will do these certain challenges for you, and I'll take on more because you love him. You want to prove that you love him, right? And he says, well, that's too much for a lifetime. And I'm not saying like reincarnate past lives. And I'm open to that, but because of the resurrection, which I know has happened, I don't really go that direction so much, but I'm open. It's like, to me, if there's a resurrection, what's the point of reincarnation? But I don't take that away from anybody. Most spiritually involved people tend to believe in that, so I don't take it away. And seeing all the people that I saw in my experience from those levels, it seemed like everybody was there. To me, from my perspective, it's like no one's reincarnated because they're all there. Pretty much. Kind of a thing. So anyway, I'm talking about challenges. So that's too much. That's too much. But when you're with him on the other side in that environment, you are absolutely surely, purely sure of your abilities. I do not know how much more I took on upon me because when I came here, I had a heck of a time. Everything went wrong. Everything went wrong. Nothing worked. I didn't know, I mean, there's good and bad on earth. There's good spirits and evil spirits here. And things just came against me so harshly when I first came back. It was frightening, scary. I was a little bit prepared for that somewhat, but not completely. And but I'm glad I probably didn't take as much as he wanted me to, because I would have jacked that up. Because once you come back here, at least in my case, I became way more earthy. Once I got back in my body, I had all my old appetites again. all my old desires. I was separate. I was different from my earth self, was different than my spiritual self, which was way more refined and everything. But I remember, yeah, Lord, getting back to that talk, I just remember, Lord, I wanted to please him. You just want to make him happy. You're grateful for his sacrifice. You're grateful for what he did for you. You're grateful for this experience. You're grateful to see your brothers, all these neat, wonderful things. And, you're shown, I was showing people as well just before this part. Talking about, I was showing my future daughter I'd meet in the future. I knew exactly what she looked like, her personality. I was showing her. I was showing people I'd meet in the future, which I did like 6 and 7 years later. I met another guy in the spirit on the other side before I met him in flesh. For me, it was like that's a funny story too. For me, it was like 6 or 7 years later when I met him. For him, it was like 23 years because his experience was in the early 70s. Mine was in 89. And when we met each other in the flesh, it was like, hey, it's you, blah, 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 we're talking. We remembered. That was kind of crazy. You can't make stuff up like that. That's kind of crazy. And it was insane because, you later you run into these people that you were showing you're supposed to meet. It's insano to me, you know. So I was showing this, but I still, honestly, when you're over there, you do not want to leave him. So anyway, getting to this part where it's time to come back. And I'm communicating with him, and he says, well, it's time for you to go back. You have important things for you. You have important things to do. And I'm starting to kind of get mad. I wasn't afraid to get mad in his presence. I wasn't like disrespecting him, and he let me take my space. And I came from kind of a Mormon perspective a little bit. I didn't understand this too much when I did this, but he said, well, it's time for you to go back. And I started getting upset because you don't want to leave him. In fact, it's like I said before, he's like a dad. Oh, wait. Well, I need to back up. I almost forgot something. I'm sorry. Very, very pivotal. I need to share this part. On some of the towards the end, when I was summoned back to him, he was showing me our connection that we have one to another. I'm sorry, I almost forgot this. I'm sorry, you guys. And he showed me. I was with him, and I was just looking. He just had me look, and he started morphing his face. Okay, and the way I describe this is like this Michael Jackson video from the I think it was 1989. I don't know if it's black and white. I can't recall on that one, but he started morphing his face, so I could see his image in him. I could see like my family's images from male and female, and so he started showing me these different aspects of everybody, and it goes back to that scripture, like we're all created in the image of God, male and female. That's exactly right, and then we're all connected. It was amazing. I need to put that in there because we're all connected. And when I was on the other side, you guys, it wasn't like Catholic heaven or Methodist heaven or Muslim heaven or Mormon heaven or Buddhist heaven. It was like family heaven. We're all connected, and whatever our path is, there's a plan to it. Some religions have more light and light knowledge of truth than others. And I know I get a little hit from the Christians on this a little bit. And I'm doing my part. I do evangelize actually, but there's a purpose, and I don't know all things. And we don't know all things on this side, except loving one another, forgive, edify, support, serve on the side of light. That's just my big thing. But we're all connected. It doesn't matter. We're all connected. And he's trying to show me that. Anyway, sorry, I almost jacked that up. Sorry. But anyway, getting back to where I had to leave, being forced to come back to Earthside. Thanks, Lord. I didn't like that one. So anyway, he's telling me, well, okay, it's important for you to go back, got things to do. And I kind of got mad. I says, I got mad. I took my head like this. I says, I'm not going back. I started pointing my finger like this. I said, I don't care if you send me to the lowest level of the celestial kingdom. I'm not going back. I'm finally happy. And he just thought that was wonderful. He lit up even extra more, and he just joyful. And he took his beard, like he had a beard, of course. And he took his hands like this. Now I could do it with my beard. And he just thought that was funny. And which is the worst thing to do when someone's really kind of mad, is to almost laugh at him, right? And I was annoyed a little bit, and I really didn't want to go back. I didn't want to leave him. I felt like the little kid, you hang on to his legs. It's like, let me stay home, like a dad that goes to work, and you go, and your little toddler kid, you go grab your dad's leg, stay home with me, daddy, we'll make cookies. You don't want to leave. You just, because he's so fatherly and motherly kind of a thing. And the hardest thing is leaving him in the environment. And anyway, so I started walking away from him, and I've heard lots of other tales where people flat out run, they run away and they get caught, and they're sent back. So anyway, I started walking way back. I'm kind of like this way. I started probably around 15 feet or so away from him, and he goes, "Well," he's like this. He goes, "I'll tell you what. if you go back, and this part's totally blanked out of my memory banks, if you go back and blank, 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 it was about that long. I have no idea what he said. Maybe he says, go back, be misunderstood, or go back and be like, I don't know what he says. I really don't know. If you go back and blank, 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 then you can come back and live with me. And I didn't have a beard at that time or anything, but I thought, yeah, I certainly want to come back and live with you, just like that. And the next thing I know, oh yeah, we were in this room where the chutes are to go to the earth, these little chute, like almost like water slides. So we're in this building, but next thing I know, I'm in this chute coming down to the earth. He must have thrown me in there. I don't know how I got there, but I just know we're in this room, which is just ginormous, like 2 miles tall, no columns. The floor is actually made of steel, and it had these little round things, kind of like they're like little doors that go down parts of the earth, and it kind of remind me of those ones they had in Star Wars, like the Millennium Falcon had, or that one city in the Empire had. It made me think of that. But they're like little water slides, so you kind of get in there. I guess you just jump in. I don't know, and then you shoot down there. Because I remember coming down the Earth. Literally, I remember falling. Literally, at least once I got to Earth, going through the clouds and coming down to Earth and heading towards my apartment. And I remember actually going through the apartment and like the attic and stuff, which was dark, but I could see completely clear. In fact, it's amazing. Even the spirit, I could feel the heat that was stuck up there coming through. And I came in over my body on the bed. And I don't know if you can see that. And I kind of inverted like this and came back into my body like that. Boy, let me tell you, that was horrible experience, you guys. Coming back your body, at least for me, it was terrible. It was not only physically painful, but that emotional weight just felt like it just grabbed you like that. And oh, the depression, that was horrible depression. I didn't really realize how bad that was. But as soon as I came back, that hit me again. And it was super painful. And I felt like when I came back to my body, it was like literally falling into sewage. It felt so filthy and dirty, and my environment was so dark. It never seemed like the light was the same when I came back, like the normal light. It always seemed darker to me ever since coming back here. It didn't seem right. And it was very painful. I couldn't even move for a while. It hurt so dang bad. And but everything came back, all my appetites, my old desires. But I came back enhanced. I had abilities and gifts that I never remember being told to have, or learning to have. But it changed my life. I just want to come back and serve on the side of light. And it led me into different ministries. I have all these gifts which I use now to help people and animals, and for my own personal growth, and just want to learn all things learnable. I just started studying like insane, like just devouring knowledge and books, and just putting it out to serve. My prayer life, eventually evolved and jumped up, and I was able to go and be led. I was led to a lot of places, studying with the Native Americans, the different religious, denominations, and with the Buddhists and the Muslims and stuff. It just changed me. It just changed me. I try to be a light to all. And let me tell you, I'm not perfect. Believe me, I'm not going to promote myself, because I make bad decisions. I call myself shade. Like one day, dark the next. I just depends on my mood. Some days, I'm just very human. Not all good, not all bad. But I do try to serve on the side of light. I try to raise the frequency of others. We're all here to serve, and forgive. And forgiveness is hard sometimes. Even for me, I have those repeat offenders that always annoy me. God puts those real fun, challenging people I use colorful metaphors with at times with, to challenge me, to make me grow. I don't really appreciate them that much, but there's a purpose to it, right? And it's just, I don't know, man. It's love. It's a basic mission: love, forgiveness, and service, and help others. And if you suffer, which we do, if we're gonna follow spiritual, a lot of us suffer. We take those experiences and help comfort others. It's all in scriptures. And I will say that a lot of the things I saw on the other side was, I found out later, was in the scriptures, and it was crazy. And I didn't know anything about near death experiences. I thought, who am I? Am I supposed to be like Moses? Like what's going on? So I was talking to a guy one time. He says, "Oh, those are near death experiences." I'm like, "What's that?" And that kind of got me going. So, but I wish I could mind meld with everybody, the love of God. And I don't care what religion you are at all. To me, that makes no difference. I'm your brother, okay? And I will help you in whatever path. I know what's true for me. I know certain things are absolutely true, but you don't take away plain and precious things to other people. You just want to share love and forgiveness and help them on their path. We are here to help each other progress. And it's about spiritual progression. And if it's not perfection, it's progression. But if you're progressing, you're perfecting. So it's a paradox, right?
Wow, that was an incredible story. I don't think I've heard so many details before. Um, what an amazing journey. How long did you feel like you were gone for?
I it felt like I was maybe gone for 3 days, but I would calculate linear time. Earth time, and maybe a half hour to an hour and a half tops. Is what I always calculated.
Well, yeah, it sounded like there was a lot going on.
Yeah, yeah, a few more things. I know more happened than I'm allowed to remember at this time. And the things I kind of edited out were pretty minor kind of things. But yeah, it was very comical. Especially at first, it's like, what's going on? No one's telling me anything. They're just showing me stuff. What's going on? Why is this? And it's kind of funny. But then I connected. It was awesome.
It sounds pretty awesome. What kind
Yeah.
of gifts did you come back with?
Well, at first, they were really strong. I mean, at first, I actually had to ask. It's typical for experiences. I actually asked God to tone it down a little bit because I didn't get an owner's manual. They didn't tell me how to work this or anything. And but I would say full blown psychic. In fact, I probably was a lot more psychic then than I am now. I had absolutely just completely psychic moments. It's like, okay, I had a friend who's going through stuff. I knew he'd call, pick up the phone. Okay, Darren, I know what happened last night. I'll see you in a few minutes. Didn't even let him talk, hang up, stuff like that. I know which song would come on the radio. I think I was witnessing to him. Okay. We'd go out traveling. I says, hey, can you keep an eye on for cops? We're going to get pulled over in 5 minutes. Okay. And that would actually happen. And even the cop says, I don't know why I need to pull you over. It was really a minor thing. We just barely caught the end of a red light. I said, yeah, you're being a witness for this guy. Um, a couple other things on the way when I was moving from Washington down to Utah after my experience, because I was drawn to come back here. Um, um, I came to a fork in the road. I was taking him home for the last time. Okay. And I said, Darren, we're coming to Fork. And by then he listened to all what I had to say about my abilities. And I says, we're coming to Fork Road. I says, we're going to get in an accident. I says, if we take the higher road, I feel it'll be less. So if we take the lower road, it's going to be worse. Can you just keep an eye out? And anyway, this is a story of a miracle, by the way, you guys. Anyway, I went up this hill, stopped. It's on top of a hill. So it's kind of like a T shape kind of a thing. So I went in, we looked both ways, lights green. It's totally clear. So I'm going out this way right here. And this car does a start skiing hutch, drives and basically jumps the hill and then broadsides my driver's side door, hits that, and then pushes my car about 15 feet over into the curb of the side of the road. And about just before that happened, a big white flash of light just, and I saw that, and later I found out he saw it. But as that happened, it protected my car because I got out of my car. I had no damage. But my tire marks were like just totally. It had pushed my car. Tire marks everywhere. I had semi truck drivers and people on the street. Oh, you okay? Oh my, you okay? And they're like, oh my gosh, I don't believe my car was not damaged. My bumper had a little bump. It was rubber. My buddy got out of the car. He just flipped it back. The other car was totaled. His front windshield was totally shattered. His hood was bent like this. His grill was all over and everything. And I was trying to get out of there. It was like people, oh my gosh, and they give me phone numbers. It's like, oh, if you need a witness, hey, they gave me the phone number. Says that's okay. I talked to the guy. He says, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I was going too fast. Says, I forgive you. I'm out of here because my car wasn't didn't really have the active tags on my car. I was like, didn't want to get pulled over. You know, I was in a bad place at that time. And so I was taking Darren home for the last time. And so, but that happened. And so I said, I forgive you, you deal with it. I'm out of here. So I took off, took off. My car was fine. And then Darren goes, did you see that bright light? I go, yeah. It's like someone took a flash. And I've heard that from other experiences, like people falling out of parachutes. You know, the parachute didn't open, they're falling. And just before they impact, there's a bright light. Or I've heard that from other people in car wrecks. All of a sudden there's a bright light and it protects them. So that was crazy. That was a miracle because I was getting ready to start my life over in some ways, you know. And also, I gave him a prophecy. I just knew what was going to happen to him. And I found out months later that I can't really go into it because it was kind of like he made some bad choices that really messed up his life in some ways. And says, you need to be careful when this happens. And so I shared it with him. And the funny thing is, a few months later, I got a letter from him. Last time I heard from him, he says, well, you're right. Exactly everything you said happened. And he was on the run, unfortunately, you know. So, but yeah, I just used my gifts now. It kind of went down for a while. And when that happened was there was a person at a restaurant. I always wanted to like shake him and say, hey, your life's in danger. He wasn't really a friend, but he's more of an acquaintance because I'd go there every day and talk to him stuff. And I didn't have any way to validate that. And I found out he got murdered. And I didn't know other people that have died. You just haven't known this. And it's like, God, this is upsetting me, you know. Or one time I was driving along and there was this car stopped in a parking lot of school. And I felt like I really needed to go over there, but I didn't. But I was just really pressed for time. I was being pressed like horribly in my then fiance was like, hey, we got to go. I really should have stopped. And now I do. And I found out later that person committed suicide. It's like, I am, dude, I'm changing my way. I don't know what's going on. Please tone it down. I don't know what's going on. You're not telling me how to deal with this. So we toned it down for a while until I asked the Lord to reactivate things. And now I'm really, my gifts have gone in a different direction where I see like orbs and entities all the time, especially orb stuff. I can go into place, I can feel negative or good, or I pick up on, I can pick up a lot, the vibrations. Sometimes it works where I'm a psychometrist, where I can touch objects and totally see what's happening. And when I do a house reading, which is pretty rare, but I do it, I'll go in, I'll put my hands on a wall, and I'll get the vibe of what's happened in the house. And I'll have everything I've done has been validated, but I do everything from a spiritual perspective first. I try to be in the state of grace. I fast and pray first. I try to be spiritual clean, and I ask to be in a place to receive, you know and I go in there and everything's validated. I have just had, I've had weird things happen. I've also been involved with house cleansings and some deliverance ministry type stuff because I'm aware of the dark side. I'm aware of the things that are trying to hurt us, that are trying to hinder us, who try to take it, maybe at first they'll tell us 1,000 truths to give you one lie to take you off course at the end. There's good and bad out there. You gotta be careful with it. And the Lord has sent me to kind of stand between, at times, not all the time, between the darkness and light for others. And I'm kind of called in to help with that on occasion, not all the time, but on occasion. So I study with that. I have a monthly meeting with an exorcist on occasion, and I study that type of stuff. It's not something I wanted to do. It's just based on my past because I used to be in the occult, and I'm aware of the dark side, and I've had encounters with very malevolent, dangerous entities that try to kill me another time. So now I serve big time on the side of light, not only trying to be a light unto others, but to protect people from the darkness with the light on occasion, not all the time. It's just as needed kind of a thing.
It sounds like you have given a lot in service to others and you're achieving your goals of wanting to help others. So thank you very much for
Oh,
that.
you're thank you. I appreciate that. You have not if you ask not, right? We're all supposed to be on the same side. And I just, the way I see it, when we cross over, I can't wait to have like reunions with people. And it's like, well, how'd your life go after I saw you last on the earth? And you talk about kids and whatever, and you talk about the little seeds you planted. I'm interested to see that. I'm not a harvester. I'm more of a seed planter, and I'd just be curious to see how that worked out. You know, and I don't know. I just do the best I can. I screw up a lot, honestly. I'm a mess, but I just want to help people know that God's there and that we're brothers and sisters. This fighting, these wars, these contentions, all this stupid selfishness. We have to change all that if we can.
Yeah. I think that to screw up and to make mistakes is to be human. And as long
Absolutely.
as we have these human bodies, we'll continue to make mistakes no matter our experiences or wisdom. But you're doing great work and I appreciate it very much. If you had any last words of wisdom for people who maybe they've lost a loved one and they're grieving or they're facing death, what would those be?
Oh, okay. Well, death is not really real, and we have more for us than are against us. We have a lot of love and support. Uh, it's just momentary, you guys. Grieving is just momentary. They actually rejoice a lot of times when they cross over, and they're with us continually. I would like offer my support to those who are grieving and things, but our life here is just really different. We're like a videotape. We're here for about 2 hours, and then we're back, right, basically. And death just is real. I mean, and we are surrounded by love. We do a lot of times we don't know that, but I would ask people to be aware at moments where you may smell that smell of let's say your grandma departed, you might smell that perfume or that baked bread, or maybe feel someone touch your cheek or your arm or something like that. They let us know we're here all the time, but a lot of us just aren't aware of that. They're aware of what that's going on in our lives. We don't really have a lot of privacy. We are connected to our families. It's family heaven. I always said that we're like families, and you have your angels and stuff looking after you. So I know it's mortal to grieve, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that's a spiritual growth a moment. But it's just temporary, and we have more for us than against us, and we have so much more support. So I don't know, just my love and peace would go out to anybody that's struggling with that, and but we're just it is just what it is. We're here to serve. They serve us from over there. They do. I will say that the other side does more for us than we imagine. And we're their servants. Everybody serves. We're supposed to serve on the earth. Guess what? The other side, they help open up opportunities for us to serve. We don't, a lot of people don't have any clue or idea, but that's true. And when you pray, a lot of this stuff happens. Well, a lot of our angels are our ancestors, in lots of cases, our post-mortal ancestors. So it just changed me. So I don't know what to say.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
If anyone wanted to reach out to you, how would they find you?
Just on my Facebook page, you can pop that out there. A lot of people are connecting me through that, so I probably have more avenues of contact in the near future. But that's how anybody can contact them right now, and I try to make myself available as much as I can for others.
Wonderful, Eric. Thank you so much for being my guest. It
Oh,
was
anything you need.
it was a great honor of mine.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it. 1,000 blessings be upon you.